A change is needed in the U.S.'s educational system, and it's needed now. The research shows that we can no longer allow our fellow and competing countries to lap us when it comes to education, which is one of the key components to any successful civilization. There was a recent study, or ranking, however, by the Huffington Post that ranked the U.S.'s educational system as average when compared to the educational systems of our competing countries, and this simply isn't acceptable. Though the amount of college graduates has increased throughout the last few decades, according to the U.S. Department of Education, the amount of people that are not able to pursue a higher degree of education is simply unacceptable. For my research, it shows that if we continue to have only a small percentage of the American population further themselves through higher education, there's no possible way that we continue to be the great country that we currently are. In the U.S., only about 50 to 65% of high school graduates are actually able to pursue a college education. This number simply cannot stand. That means that of the enormous amount of kids that we have that graduate high school every year, only nearly half of them will never be able to pursue a college education. One of the big reasons for this is the financial burden that's put upon these students. According to a website called educationamerica.net, one of the biggest problems that students face when trying to get into college is affording college. In a country as great as ours, we cannot allow ourselves to fall behind in the educational race simply because our high school graduates are not able to afford college. There are a few things besides just the basic tuition that are causing students to not be able to go as well. For instance, when you look at the price of books, for many students that go to college in-state, their books can actually be as much as their tuition, which is pretty insane. There are a few websites that are trying to change this scenario, such as Chegg, which allows students to rent books and then to actually resell them back to the website, and then they can also be recycled that way. Another big problem is dealing with the living. A lot of people, they'll move away from home when going to college, and you can really only live in a dorm for at max the first 2 years. So that leaves the student with the responsibility of taking care of their own living situation once they're out of that time frame. And many college students are not in any kind of position to deal with that. Another thing that haunts kids is the financial aid. Financial aid has come under some pretty big trouble lately, as it's seen hand in hand with credit card debt, which is viewed as one of the big things that are causing the downturn in the economy right now. And one of the biggest things, a lot of kids, they dream of moving outside of even their home state, sometimes even all the way across the country to go to the school of their dreams. Now, unless they happen to get a full ride to one of these schools or an athletic scholarship, most likely they're going to have to pay a lot of the money to go. And most kids simply cannot afford the ridiculously high tuition that these out-of-state colleges will charge them. To solve these problems, we're going to have to take a look at some of our fellow countries and see how they've been solving this problem. Some of the countries, such as Denmark, Norway, and Finland, have developed systems where the college students in their countries are actually able to go to college for free. Now, this is only available to the students that are actually from the country, but it's much better than having to pay anything. We would be able to provide a program like this, but we're definitely going to have to ask both our federal and state government to lend us a hand financially. We're going to have to urge our government to appropriate the necessary funds and investment to allow all of our citizens to get this education. We have to realize that, especially in hard economic times like we're in right now, we have to follow the proven keys to success to get out of it. The key, or education, is one of the proven keys that will actually get us out of the scenario, and it's been proven time and time again. In a recent interview with Barack Obama, he stated that to win the future, we also have to win the race in educating our children. So clearly you can tell that's a very important part. Our government is going to have to be prepared to appropriate the proper funds to ensure that we are able to educate all of our people. And this is something that's going to be very necessary in order to allow our country to grow as a whole, and also as to grow and competing with these competing countries in the education world.